Morning at Pinecone Diner. On Park Street, Livingston, Montana, always smelled like pancakes and freshly brewed coffee. Sunlight streamed through the glass windows, sliding across rows of red leather booths like a postcard from old America. Eva Brooks sat alone in the farthest corner, a plate of cold fried eggs and an untouched cup of black tea before her. She had just finished her night shift at a gas station on the outskirts, her eyelids heavy as lead, yet her ears still caught the clink of spoons on plates. Then that laughter shifted. It became something sharp, jagged, like a knife scraping against metal. 3 men approached, bringing with them the stench of stale beer and cigarettes. The one in front had patchy stubble and the indifferent eyes of someone used to winning. He planted an elbow on Eva's table, leaning close enough for her to see the snake tattoo on his neck. "Why are you wearing that, huh?" he said, fingers gripping the thin collar of her shirt. A tearing sound split the air, too loud for such a small room. Everything froze. Eva flinched, both hands clutching the ripped fabric, her face burning with humiliation. No one in the diner stood up. The manager froze behind the counter. An elderly couple looked away. In Montana, people often reminded each other, "Don't get involved in a drunk man's trouble." But that morning, the line between fear and right or wrong was so thin it could break with a single breath. Eva Brooks, 25, born in Bozeman, raised among the scent of pine and the cold wind of Paradise Valley. Her mother died young. Her father drove trucks long distance, weeks on the road just to scrape together rent. Since childhood, Eva had learned to do everything quietly: change light bulbs, patch pipes, save every flour-stained bill in a small blue tin box. She hated attention, hated the prying eyes of a small town where gossip traveled faster than clouds. The only person who ever pulled Eva out of her shell was her brother, Rhett Stone Brooks. At 18, Rhett left home, riding through the mountain ranges like he was fleeing their father's random bursts of anger and the long, silent winters. He joined a motorcycle club called the Loyal Sons MC, a group both feared and secretly admired in town. Eva never liked how people called them outlaws, troublemakers. She remembered the last afternoon before he left. Rhett took off his leather jacket, placed it on her shoulders, and said, "You don't have to be loud to be strong. Rhett seldom came back. Usually it was postcards from Idaho, Wyoming, sometimes Utah, a few short lines that sounded like engine echoes bouncing off canyon walls. "The pass is clear. Had cherry pie by the lakeside shack? All good." Eva kept them in the tin box. In recent years, she stopped expecting to see him again in any diner. The mountains were vast, the roads long. Who meets by chance exactly when they need to? Eva thought she had to manage on her own, stand tall by herself. But that morning, everything she held on to was torn apart, like a seam ripped open. The scruffy man let out a laugh, his smoke-stained fingers brushing the torn edge. "Oh, so you like being looked at," he sneered, voice frothing like beer foam. The other two joined in. One slammed the table, sending Eva's teacup rolling to the edge and spilling a streak of amber across the polished wood floor. The jukebox kept playing, but the tune now sounded distant, like it belonged to another town. Eva tried to speak, her throat dry. "Please, stop." The words fell short, broken between their laughter. The manager glanced around, lips trembling. "Hey, guys, calm down." But he didn't step out from behind the counter. A young man pulled his cap lower. The elderly couple buried their eyes in the menu, though they had already ordered. The silence in the diner wasn't complicity. It was fear grown old. So familiar everyone had accepted it as normal. Eva trembled, trying to cover her chest with her cold fingers. She thought about running out, but her legs were rooted to the floor. "You know," the leader leaned closer, his breath heavy with alcohol. "This town's boring as hell. We just want a little fun." When he grinned, Eva saw food stuck between his teeth, and in that strange moment, she felt her life shrink to that ugly dark speck. Another hand yanked a fresh tear across her shirt, the ripping sound raising goosebumps on every neck. Eva bit her lip until it bled. Her tears weren't from pain, but shame. Part of her screamed, "Stand up!" Another part only wanted to disappear. The diner door rattled, bell chiming. Footsteps, heavy, slow, deliberate, like someone who knew he never had to hurry. No one turned. Only the air thickened, heavy as before a storm. Eva heard someone swallow hard. The leader stopped laughing, his eyes flicked towards the door, then back, as if to prove he feared no one. Yet his fingers unconsciously slipped away from her collar. A feeling, fragile like a tightened guitar string, stretched across the room. Two men in black leather jackets walked in, morning light tracing bright outlines on their shoulders. On their backs, wings embroidered with the words, "Loyal Sons MC." The one in front was tall, beard streaked with silver, eyes warm yet deep as Hebgen Lake in autumn. The one behind was bald, bearded, a silent wall a half step back. They said nothing. They weren't looking for allies. They just looked straight toward the back table, where Eva sat clutching her collar. The moment stretched, a single breath long enough for the room to adjust itself. Forks lowered. The jukebox went quiet. The man in front walked slowly, the sound of his boots marking steady beats on the tile. When only a few steps remained, his eyes met Eva's. A flicker. Shock. Pain. Then fire meeting wind. "Stone," Eva whispered. Rhett Stone Brooks, the brother she had stopped expecting to see in any diner, was standing here on the smallest morning of her life. He didn't smile in reunion, didn't call her name. He tilted his head slightly, his gaze shifting to the three men. No curse, no shout, but his silence hit the room like thunder restrained. The leader forced a laugh. "Hey, we were just messing around." He spread his arms, eyes darting for an exit. The man behind Stone stayed still, arms crossed. Stone stopped, positioning himself so that if needed, he could shield Eva completely. He looked straight into the man's eyes. Not for long, just enough for the other to see himself. And in that reflection, the man saw something. Maybe his mother's face, maybe the nights he had humiliated others to fill his emptiness. Whatever it was, his shoulders dropped. His hand fell from the air like off the edge of a chair. Stone turned to Eva, voice low but gentle. "Stand up." Eva rose slowly, still gripping the torn fabric. Stone took off his leather jacket and draped it over her shoulders, just like years ago on their porch. The scent of leather, mountain wind, long roads, a shield needing no lock. The whispers in the diner faded. The manager exhaled like surfacing from water. No one was punched, no tables flipped, no chase scene. Just three men suddenly became small before everyone's eyes. They stepped back, then another step. One muttered, "Sorry." The word dropped, dissolving like stone in hot water. Stone didn't reply. He held out his hand to Eva. Warm. Steady. They walked down the aisle between tables, sunlight gathering into a thin path leading to the door. The bell chimed again. Soft as comfort. The morning wind on Park Street carried the scent of the Yellowstone River and the hum of a passing pickup. Stone's motorcycle was parked at the curb, chrome gleaming like a slice of sunlight. Ava pulled the jacket tighter around her shoulders, feeling light, as if she'd set down an invisible weight. She looked through the diner window. The three men stood silent. The other patrons watched them like something that had fallen from a dark cloud. Stone handed Eva a helmet. "You okay?" he asked in his quiet way. Eva nodded, letting tears fall for the first time without shame. "I thought I had to handle everything alone," she said. Stone shrugged. "Being strong doesn't mean being alone." His friend, people called him Bear, opened the saddlebag, pulled out a new black t-shirt, and handed it to her. "For you," he said, flashing a brief smile before falling silent again. They didn't leave right away. Stone told Ava to hop on, let her hands remember the safety of childhood. But today, safety didn't come from the roaring engine. It came from the simple truth that someone stood by her, openly and quietly. Livingston seemed brighter, the Bridger Mountains closer by half a step. Inside, the manager called the police, not loudly, just as procedure. A couple paid for Eva's breakfast at the counter. Someone's voice carried through the door. "Sorry, I should have spoken up sooner." Eva smiled, not to forgive him, but to forgive herself for once believing she had to bear the world alone. As they rode off, sunlight shattered across the pavement, reflecting in shards on her visor. Eva saw her shadow stretch across the asphalt, small, but no longer trembling. At the intersection, Stone didn't ask where she wanted to go. He just said, "Cherry pie by the lakeside shack?" The words were so familiar that Ava laughed out loud. The road ahead opened like a promise. Later, a county patrol car pulled up. The manager recounted the story, and the three men mumbled their apologies. No one tried to be a hero. Everything unfolded slowly, properly, the way a small town patches the tear of a morning. Morning at Pinecone Diner would never again be the perfect postcard. It had a tear, a tremor, people who looked away, and one who didn't. But that's what made the postcard real. Strength isn't fists or shouts. Sometimes it's a gaze long enough for the wrongdoer to see himself. Sometimes it's a jacket laid over someone's shoulders, saying, "You're not alone now." Ava would still have many days of being strong on her own, changing bulbs, fixing pipes, counting small bills. But she'd learned a new definition. Strength is calling your brother's name. It's accepting the hand offered without shame. It's knowing that kindness can ride a motorcycle without needing the roar to prove it. Livingston may still gossip about the loyal sons, MC. That's fine. Some things exist not to be understood by outsiders, but to make those who need protection feel safe. If this story touched you, leave a comment. What would you do if you witnessed something like this in a small diner? Would you step up or stay silent? Don't forget to like, share with someone who needs to hear about kindness, and follow Kindness Stories 365 so you won't miss the next heartwarming story. Tell us about a moment when you saw someone stand up for the vulnerable, and turn on notifications to walk with us every day.